The following is a presentation of the Sports Stove Media in partnership with Belly Up Sports. Here's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove football show. We're talking college football playoff rankings, NFL trades, and this week's NFL picks. That's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove football show. Welcome in to an all new edition of the Sports Stove podcast. Transitioning from the Sports Stove podcast to the Sports Stove football show. Moving forward on this broadcast, it will be football talk that'll get us all the way through the NFL draft, and then starting in the next season, previews and all that good stuff as well. January starts up the Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball show as well, and the Sports Stove Local Hour still live every Thursday through the end of the year also. So some small changes to the programming, but one thing that does not change is, well, your host. I'm Vince Stover, joined as I am by my we're joined as I am every week by my dad, Dale Stover. Dad, how you doing?
Hey, I'm glad to be here. So again, football's a great time, and boy, it's getting exciting midway here in the NFL and closing in near the end on college football. Of course, high school playoffs are going too. There are probably a lot of people keeping up with that. So a lot of football.
A lot of football for sure. And in the past, this program, we've kind of covered a little smattering of college basketball and a smattering of NASCAR and a smattering of other things. And there is plenty of NASCAR things to talk about this week. But we've transitioned to the football show now and focus heavily on college and professional football. And Dad, this week, by the way, we're presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. Thankful for them still partnering with us. Join the flavor revolution at righteousfelon.com. Use the promo code STOVE15. You're going to get 15% off your purchase. If you miss any portion of the broadcast tonight, you can always watch it back on YouTube or catch it on the Sports Stove Media podcast, wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, and everywhere else as well. Yesterday, along with, I'm not sure if you knew there was an election or not, but there was also college football playoff rankings that came up. And Dad, we can talk about the election or college football, whichever one you want. But let's just stick it to football, I guess, since that's the name of the show. College football playoff rankings come out, first ones of the year. Oregon, number one, not really a question mark there. Ohio State, Georgia, and Miami close out the top four. Texas, Penn State, Tennessee, Indiana, BYU, and Notre Dame are the top 10. Alabama and Boise State round out the 12. Dad, I will tell you, I've got two problems with these rankings that came out. The first problem I have is Alabama at 11. I know Vanderbilt is better. I know they're a ranked team. I get all of that. But if you lose to Vanderbilt and you're a two-loss team, you can't be in the playoffs. That's my personal opinion. And so I have a problem with Alabama being that high. They're above Boise State. They're above SMU. They're above Pitt. I don't think that's where they should be. And then the other problem I have is all the way down at 22 with Louisville, a three-loss team. I don't see how you put them above Army, above Missouri. Clemson, okay, I guess. But with three losses, I think there's enough good two-loss teams. Louisville should not be in the top 25, in my opinion. Those are really the only two issues I have, though, at this point. I know things will kind of iron itself out through the schedule, but your thoughts on this initial 25?
Yeah, I think with being its early rankings, the Alabama thing did jump out to me. I thought they're a little high. Of course, I know we'll talk about games, and they got a game this week that will probably it's going to knock somebody down a little ways, no doubt about that. Of course, Alabama's tradition. But yeah, I think if teams, the thing is, we got 4 weeks left. Some have 4 games, some have 3 games. To me, the thing that's really going to be intriguing in a couple of weeks is who's going to be in the conference championship games, because you don't have the brackets this year. You don't have the divisions. And that's really going to make a difference. And, it could help or it could hurt. It may be an advantage to not be in the playoff and not get that loss, or the type of loss someone may have. And that may be something they have to tweak with this thing as time goes on down the line. I like the 12-team playoff. I've always thought that was good. And we know when you get down to number 11, number 12, there's going to be quibbling over who could get in and who didn't get in. But looking at this, it looked pretty good. Like I said, Alabama jumped out. I think there's some teams you could say maybe could have moved up. But again, we've got 3 or 4 weeks left. So, and you have to look at quality wins. SMU was very impressive to me, the way they won. That was a team that I thought probably maybe could have been a little higher in this first poll, just based on that win there. And but we're going to have some games the next few weeks for sure. These teams are not going to stay the same. Some are going to drop out. Some may move up if they keep winning. We will see. I made a list at the start of the year of the conferences because it was hard for me to keep up with who's in the conference. So I looked at that a lot today, and it's going to be real interesting, no doubt about it. So, but overall, I agree. I think these rankings were pretty good. I think they'll probably look different next week, or definitely could. But and again, with 3 and 4, I started looking, some teams only have 3 games left. There's several of these good teams that are going to play this week and then going to have a week off before they come back to play. And that's going to definitely affect the rankings. I wouldn't think you could drop, when you don't play. You probably could go up maybe when you don't play. So, we'll see how that goes.
Well, and we got to talk about Army because Coach McGuire asked us to. So Army's 8-0. They're currently 25 in the college football playoff ranking. They're 18 in the AP poll, and I think they're higher than that in the coaches poll. Let me see where they are. They're 19 in the coaches poll right now. You look at their schedule and you say, okay, so they've beaten Lehigh, FAU, Rice, Temple, Tulsa, UAB, East Carolina, Air Force. Their schedule has not been good. They play Notre Dame in a couple weeks. Then they've got Navy, which should be a good game. Then they got North Texas and UTSA. So, I mean, Army is undefeated, and that's awesome. It's a good story, but they've really played no one so far.
Yeah, the thing with Army is going to be the Notre Dame game. Yeah. That will keep them there because you had the Navy Notre Dame game, and Notre Dame really destroyed them. So, we'll find out if Army can play with Notre Dame, then all of a sudden they may become a factor in the rankings here. And then the tough thing for them is the Army-Navy game at the end, because that game, even when one team has a much better record than the other, you never know how that's going to go. But they're both good teams this year. Yeah, I think Army's a great story. And I think, again, they're going to end up ranked pretty well. But you're right. They didn't play the schedule necessarily. That everybody, that some of the other teams have. So
yeah, and this week, really the SEC is the only one playing powerhouse games this week. Alabama and LSU. That's at LSU. Will be the night game on Saturday. Alabama's actually the favorite at that game. I'm a little surprised by that. They're a 3-point favorite there. And then you've got Ole Miss and Georgia. Ole Miss at home. Georgia 2.5-point favorites. I'm a little surprised that's not bigger. So. If Georgia loses, it's really going to muddy the playoff picture because you're going to have 2 lost teams there in the SEC that are fighting for, some spots in those playoffs. And, I don't know that Georgia definitely has not played as good as we thought they would this season, but they are 7-1. So they travel to Ole Miss 3:30 in the afternoon, and then Alabama travels to LSU in the evening. Both of those games are going to be important, not just for the SEC, but for those college playoffs, like we were just talking about a little bit ago.
Yeah, and again, some other games this weekend. Indiana's been real intriguing, and they play
Yeah.
Michigan this week. Based on how they played, they should be able to beat Michigan, and they're at home. But
Yeah.
again, I think, I know I'm kind of waiting for surely Indiana's going to lose a game at some point in time here, and we'll see. If they win this one, then they're off a week before they play Ohio State. So
Yeah.
we will see from there. Penn State, they've been very, very strong. So, but now, they lost a real tough one. That was a great game to watch. Ohio State, I think, really played well. It was a good football game. But you got Washington coming into Penn State. Will Penn State have will they kind of be in a funk here? And Washington's played good against some teams. And that may be an interesting game also. Miami, they've had either some close games or they've had some games that were close early on. I know I've looked and thought, oh my, they may be in trouble. And they're playing Georgia Tech, which, that's the team, wasn't it, that beat Florida State in the first game?
Yeah, but they're 5-4, so I'm not too worried about them anymore.
No, well, it shouldn't be, as long as Miami can keep, their poise from there.
Yeah.
So,
So
we'll be interested to see.
It's interesting, Dad. You look at the ACC right now. You got Miami and SMU are the undefeated in conference. Teams are 5-0 in the conference. SMU's 8-1. Miami's 9-0. Miami has yet to play a ranked team. Them and North Carolina are the only ones in the ACC that have not played ranked teams yet. So Miami's schedule hasn't been that great, even though they're winning games, which is good for them. Their defense looks average. Their offense has looked good most of the time. But, to say Miami's going to go undefeated the whole season, I'm not sure it's going to happen, because once they get into ranked opponents, which may not be until the ACC championship game, because they've got Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Syracuse. So it won't be until the ACC championship game that they get a ranked opponent. But if they lose that ACC championship game, you could see them drop hard out of that top 12, or maybe they stick around. But those are the kind of teams you're looking at going, okay, it's just like the bubble in the NCAA tournament. Like, you're looking at these championship games. If you're a bubble team, you want the higher seed to win these games so that you can get in, because if a Miami loses undefeated and then loses the ACC championship game, you're loser of your SEC championship game. Like, those are the kind of teams that you don't want. You want the top team to win if you're a bubble team right now. In the SEC, Dan, you got Georgia currently first, but they've got a tough schedule. A&M is 5-1 in the conference, but they're 7-2, outside of the conference or overall. Tennessee is the only SEC team to be undefeated against ranked teams this year, and they're 3-0 against ranked teams. Then Texas is right there behind them. They've played some of the most in SEC, most ranked games. So Tennessee's got Mississippi State this week, which they should win at home. Then they've got Georgia next week, and is it Georgia coming off a win or a loss? We don't know. Then UTEP, which should be a win, and then Vanderbilt, which is obviously not going to be an easy win, but it should still be a win. So I'm looking at this championship weekend thinking, if Georgia's one loss and Tennessee's a one, or I guess that wouldn't work out, and Texas is a one loss or whatever it may be, you're sitting there going, okay, now only one of them is going to be a 2-loss. And what happens if Alabama wins out and all of a sudden they're a 2-loss team, but they don't play in the SEC championship game and they still make the playoffs because they're third in the SEC and didn't have to go up against Georgia or Texas or Tennessee, whoever, in the SEC championship game. So, needless to say, Dad, it's going to be crazy, and a good crazy, I think, but it's going to be crazy. I just really don't think Alabama should be at 11, considering who they've lost to. I'd really rather see them down in the 14-15 range. Personally, would make sense to me at the very. They're above Texas A&M, and A&M is 5-1 in the conference. Alabama's 3-2 in the conference. Like, it just doesn't make sense in my humble opinion. But nonetheless, you talk about these other conferences, the Big Ten, of course. The way they're looking right now is Ohio State and Oregon. Indiana, of course, up there right now in first place as well. So, and Penn State's right behind. So, does anybody think Indiana's going to win the Big Ten? I don't. Do you think Indiana's going to win the Big Ten?
No, I don't think so. But at this stage, well, yeah,
they could. Right?
No, I don't think they will.
Yeah, I mean they haven't played very many good teams. Defensively, they're the second best in the conference. Offensively, they're at the top. I think they're first. Yeah, first in the conference. But again, they've played one coach's ranked team. They haven't played anybody that was ranked in the AP poll. One that was currently in like lower 20s in the coaches poll. But honestly, Dad, you look at the top. Oregon's only played 2 ranked teams. Ohio State's only played 2 ranked teams. Penn State's only played 2 ranked teams. And Ohio State and Penn State both lost to a ranked team. So, I mean, I don't think the Big Ten is that strong. Oregon does look good. We'll give them their due at the very least. I just, I'm not too impressed by what I'm seeing there. And then in the Big 12 is the other conference where right now you got BYU sitting there undefeated, 8-0. They've only played 1 ranked opponent. I'm not impressed with what I'm seeing from them. And what you're really not seeing in the Big 12 this year is scoring. The scoring is down this year in the Big 12. And, Iowa State, I liked them. I liked them as a sleeper. Their defense is really, really good. They ended up losing. I'm not sure if they'll get a chance to play in the Big 12 championship or not. And then Colorado's the other team. Colorado's been much better than I anticipated this year.
Yes, they have been, but again, we'll see how they end up here at the end of the year. Kansas State's still been pretty good too. They're a 2-loss team, so
right. Yeah, but both their losses came in the conference, which is never a good, never a good sign. But they beat both ranked opponents that they played this year as well. So it's going to be fun to watch it continue to roll down throughout the season and see where everything lands for sure. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch all of that. All right. Anything else college football related you want to talk to before we transition over to the NFL?
No, like I said, I think it'll take shape a little more after, in the next 2 weeks. But no, it's definitely good. There have been some good football. I think it's created. And again, I think what we're talking about here will create more excitement coming up at the end of the season. Because of the 12-team playoff and just because of the way it is, and even maybe the way the conference championships are set up, fighting to get into that at the very end. I'm real intrigued to see whether, different conferences are doing it different ways, because I don't know that hardly any of these conferences are going to have a clear cut with the record 1 and 2. So we'll see.
I agree. All right, let's look over at the NFL. Finally, Dennis Allen is fired. We thought he would be the first fired this year. He was not. So he's gone. New Orleans could not find a way after winning their first 2 and actually surprising people in their first 2. It's been incredibly ugly ever since. So no surprise on that firing. Dad, how good do you think that job is for the next guy that comes in?
I don't know that it's a real bad job. I mean, there's, is there a lot of talent there? I don't know. And, they've traded a little bit away. They got a good, good running back, may have a quarterback there. So, and, New Orleans has got, I don't know if that's a terrible job. I think that's one that, could turn around from that standpoint. And again, they're in a division where, but there's teams in that division that are getting better. So they're going to have to get better quickly from there also.
Trades went on this week. The trade deadline hit this week. A few moves early and a couple day of Deontay Johnson. I don't think we ever talked about that one, going from the Panthers to the Ravens. Vikings picked up an O-lineman and Cam Robinson. Pittsburgh Steelers made a couple, I think, good moves. Preston Smith, the edge from the Packers, goes over there. Mike Williams, the receiver, formerly of the Chargers, then to the Jets, and now down there to Pittsburgh. I like those moves for Pittsburgh. I think it definitely helped them get better, right?
Yes, yeah, I think so. I think some of the good teams added a little bit that may help them from there. But yeah, Pittsburgh probably made as good a moves maybe as anybody.
Yeah, Washington goes out and gets Marshawn Lattimore, which is a pretty big pickup. Baltimore went out and got White from out west, the Rams, I believe, and so some DBs got moved to help some teams out as well. Of course, the Dallas Cowboys probably made the biggest move of the weekend, going out and getting Carolina Panthers wide receiver Jonathan Mingo, right? That moved the needle for everybody. Cowboys fans thought, yeah, it's over now. And then the trade I really liked, Dad, was the one the Bengals made. They went out and acquired Khalil Herbert and as a backup running back from the Bears. And they had, of course, injury to Zach Moss, who's out for the season. And Chase Brown has looked decent and actually looked pretty decent, very good. But I really like Khalil Herbert. I think that's a really good snag for the Bengals. Maybe kind of a sneaky good acquisition for the Bengals this week.
Yeah, the Bengals, need some help, and that is a good pickup. So I think that'll give them a little more strength in the running back department.
Let's get the games, Dad, and let's talk about another good week of picks. I think you got 5 of 6. I got 4 of 6 last week. So picks were going well overall. Each week we pick 6 games, and we do all the primetime games, and then we pick however many games are left, usually 3, just random games of our own choosing. So this week, Dad, let's start with the Thursday night game. Cincinnati Bengals traveled to Baltimore, a massive game here in the division. The Ravens 6-3. They're 6-point favorites at home against the Bengals this week. Obviously, the Ravens run, but they acquired a stud receiver this week as well. So I think I saw Isaiah Likely's out for the Ravens this week, the tight end. Of course, they still have Mark Andrews. So I don't know, Dad, how you feeling about Baltimore and Cincinnati?
Yeah, like I said, this is a tough one to pick because it's a really big game. I'm going to pick the Bengals just because they really need to win this, but I like the Ravens, and the Ravens have played well. They were disappointing a couple weeks ago, but it is at Baltimore. But if the Bengals have any chance of staying in this, this would be a big win for them. They're going to have to score. Like you said, stopping Derrick Henry has been the chore kind of for everybody with Baltimore. At times, Cincinnati can play pretty good defense, but they're going to have to get it together on offense, and maybe this Herbert pickup will help them. I'm probably going with my heart here more than my head, but I'm going to pick the Bengals.
You're getting a little cocky there with all your good picks here recently, Dan. Yeah, I'm going to go Ravens at home. I don't think you can. Can the Bengals win? Yes, of course they can. I just have not been impressed. I've watched several Bengals games this year. Not impressed with what they're doing right now. The Ravens, they have these games that they do drop. They have games where they just don't play well, and this is going to be a tough one. But I'll go Ravens in this one. I might, if I was a gambler, maybe I would go with the Bengals to cover at 6, but I'm not, and I'm going to go Ravens to win this game on Thursday night. It'll be a good one, though. Should be a good one at the very least. Sunday night is the Detroit Lions traveling to the Houston Texans. 2 really good teams, Dad. Detroit is 3.5-point favorite on the road here against Houston. Detroit's playing as good as anybody right now. How do you feel about them traveling to Houston?
Yeah, this one I'll switch it around and go with my head instead of my heart, and I will pick Detroit because, again, I think they are playing well and doing well there. Houston, again, has had some injuries, but I think they're a good team. Again, I would like to pick Houston because I'm getting to where I have absolutely no use for Detroit at all. But and them beating us here didn't help. But there's a lot of little attitude things added to it. But like I said, as far as making picks, I think the safe thing is to go with Detroit. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm going to go Houston. The Lions beat the Packers by 10. That included a pick 6 and a hobbled quarterback they were playing against. I don't And I think they're coming off a little bit of a high too. I think the ego maybe be getting to them a bit. They're both good teams. There's no doubt about that. I just think Houston at home is going to be dialed in and ready for this game. Houston's going to approach it like a playoff game. I think Houston wins this game at home. If it was in Detroit, I might change my mind on that, but I like Houston in this one. Monday night is the Dolphins and the Rams. Rams pulled off a big win this week to stay in the hunt in the West. The Dolphins, on the other hand, 2-6. Talking about desperate for a win. It's definitely the Dolphins. But Tua, of course, is back and has been back. The offense is starting to find its groove a bit. Do you go Los Angeles at home or Miami on the road?
I'll go with Los Angeles at home. Again, it's really a Jekyll and Hyde thing with them. You just kind of don't know, how, but they do have their receivers back now. I think that helps a lot, with Pukunoka as well as, having both their receivers back. So we'll go with the Rams, but like I said, Miami may come ready to play, but being at the Rams, I'll go with the home team on this one.
I'm going to go Miami, Dad. We're going to go opposite on all these picks. Miami, to me, is getting better. They're starting to find their groove. The Rams, like you said, they have their moments, but both ways. And the Rams are only a 1-point favorite here. So I'm going to kind of lean into whatever Vegas knows here and kind of go towards Miami myself. So I'll go Dolphins. I don't think Dolphins make the playoffs this year. It's too far gone. At some point, they might even think about benching Tua just to keep him healthy. I don't know. That's not for this week, though. So I'll go Miami over Los Angeles in this game, personally. All right, let's talk about the rest of the week. Starting off your fourth game of the week, Dad. Who you going with?
I'm going to go with Atlanta over New Orleans. A little bit scary because, sometimes when a team gets rid of their coach, that kind of inspires the team. And again, I don't know Atlanta's maturity. Atlanta is playing better right now, and this is a division game. So, again, to me, there wasn't a lot of great games to pick, but I'll go with, even though it's a road team, I'll go with Atlanta over New Orleans.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it is a dangerous one. That's why I didn't pick this one. I think it's the second week that Derek Carr's back. He just got absolutely trashed on Twitter by Mike Thomas, and he came out and defended himself for it. But this could definitely be a game where New Orleans comes out kind of revived a bit and plays a really good football game. But I'll go Atlanta as well, but only because I pick all the games every week. Otherwise, I would have stayed away from this game completely altogether. Dad, I'm going Bills. Bills over Indianapolis. Bills are in Indianapolis this week, and the Colts, I just think they're destined for an early draft pick. They're 4-5 on the year, which is good for them. But their quarterback situation's not good. And we'll talk about that in a second. But first, your thoughts on Bills and Colts.
Yeah, well, this is a game that I picked too, and I did pick the Bills because I think the Bills are doing well. I think they've, kind of definitely have recovered. And again, Indianapolis is struggling. So, Buffalo, even though it's on the road, they should be able to win this. So I did this a game I picked also.
Okay. Let's talk about that Anthony Richardson thing because we really didn't spend time on it before. He comes out for a play 2 weeks ago, says he's tired. Then after the game's done, the Colts decide to go a different direction for the time being. They haven't said they won't come back to him, but I've listened to several former players talk and say, man, he loses so much respect doing that. And how can he gain that back? It's not going to be easy for him to gain the respect back. Maybe never again in Indianapolis. I don't remember us really talking about this, Dad, before. Your thoughts on Anthony Richardson and that whole situation in Indianapolis?
Yeah, like I said, I think it'll be hard for him to get respect back, especially with the players. He may have trouble getting respect back from the coach or whatever. But again, they could have meetings. But as far as the players trusting him, and the quarterback has got to be the leader, and that's what the problem really comes down with this. Now, he's got athletic ability, and maybe, if he went to another team, and it was a real learning experience. But I think he's a little bit of a project, anyhow, from
Sure.
being a polished starting quarterback.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you. All right, my fifth game is the Chargers over the Titans. Chargers at home in this game. They're 5-3. Titans are 2-6. Mason Rudolph running quarterback for him right now. I think the Chargers are a way better team than the Titans. So for me, this one was one that seemed obvious. Any thoughts on Chargers and Titans?
Yeah, I think the Chargers ought to win this one. From there, the Titans surprise every now and then, but again, they may be headed for a high draft pick here also. So, I would agree with the Chargers.
Your sixth game this week, who did you pick?
All right, I'm going to go with a road team here, and when I looked at it, this to me this does make sense. I'm going to go with the Eagles over Dallas. I think Dallas is having their problems. I think the Eagles are playing better. This is a division game. The Eagles can really stay in the hunt here, and they need to with the Commanders if they're going to. I think Dallas is on the way down, and even though it's at Dallas, this would be an exciting division game no matter what was going on. But it seems to me like Philadelphia ought to win this.
Well, yeah, backup quarterback for Dallas. Dak Prescott's out. Looks like he could be out for a while. So that leans that direction for sure. Cowboys haven't been playing great. They're 3-5. Eagles have been playing well. Saquon's been amazing. I did not pick this game in my pick six, but I agree with you. I got Philadelphia winning this game also. If Cooper Rush wins against Philadelphia, you might see the Philadelphia coach fired on the way home from that trip, just for that sake as well. So, my last pick, Dad, man, I tell you what, I looked at New York over Carolina, but Carolina's been playing better. I'm going to go Kansas City over Denver. The Chiefs are eventually going to lose a game, and Denver has definitely played better. But I don't see Kansas City losing at home, first of all. And I just don't think the Broncos are really that good. So the Chiefs have been playing some really good football. And to me, I needed to stay on the winning ways. So I decided to go a little easier this week and go with the Chiefs over the Broncos. What's your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I stayed away from this one because, like you said, the Chiefs are going to lose one or two down the line. And there's quite a rivalry here, even though this is in Kansas City with a division game. And the Broncos have had their moments. So I think this might be the weekend that Kansas City gets upset. So I've picked Denver. Again, I won't be surprised if Kansas City wins, won't be upset if Kansas City wins. But I think this might be the one that puts a little blemish on the schedule.
Okay, interesting. I thought you might go that direction, honestly. So, but yeah, I don't think it's this week, but soon the Chiefs will lose. All right, let's go to Germany, Dad. The Giants and Panthers. Again, Bryce Young has been playing better. The Giants have moments that they look like they're a football team. 2-7 for both of these guys. The Giants are 6.5-point favorites. Again, if I was a gambling man, I would go Panthers to cover here, but I'm not. So which direction do you go with the win for the Giants or the Panthers in Germany?
Yeah, this was a little hard to make a choice on because I'm going to pick Carolina because I think they are doing better there. In fantasy football, I have a lot of people on buys this week. So I picked up the Giants defense, which should be a good thing. So, we will see. If Carolina could win 3-0, I guess that'd be ideal for me. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I was wondering who got them. I claimed them and I didn't get them. So that makes sense. I'm going Giants in this one. I just think they're a better team still. The Carolina, they've got some promise and some hope and all that kind of stuff. The Giants, everything's so negative, but it's because they're in New York and because they let Saquon go and he's killing it and those kinds of things. They never got a quarterback. But I still think the Giants are the better team here. So I'm going to go with them in this neutral site game as well. Let's see here. San Francisco and Tampa this week. Baker Mayfield almost gave Kansas City a loss this week. Now he gets to play San Francisco. San Francisco 6.5-point favorites in this one. It's at Tampa, Dad. How do you think this one goes?
Yeah, both these teams really need a win. A loss is going to really put them in a little bit of a hole. But I've got to believe San Francisco is going to, rebound a little bit. So I'm going to pick San Francisco. But again, being at Tampa, and they played awfully good against Kansas City. So I had to think about this one long and hard, but hard to pick for me to pick against San Francisco. So we'll go with the Niners.
I will curse the Bucks. I'm going to pick Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers to win this game at home. San Francisco, again, they just haven't been dominant. They haven't found a way. They're a little banged up as well. Kansas City, they played Kansas City tough. And they're beat up too. So I don't know. I probably should go 49ers, but I'm going to go Tampa in this one unconfidently on that one for sure. Let's see here. Pittsburgh travels to Washington, Dad. Pittsburgh makes a whole bunch of changes. And before we get to that one, quick word from Kevin Wilson, our fantasy football expert, saying make sure you got Ricky Pearsall in your lineups this week at San Francisco, looking for a breakout week for him. Pittsburgh and Washington. Washington makes the acquisition on defense to get better. Pittsburgh gets a defensive and offensive acquisition as well. I admit, Dad, Pittsburgh has surprised me this year. Washington has to a degree, but I kind of thought they could be sneaky good. They're better than I thought they would be. Who do you go with, Washington or Pittsburgh?
Yeah, it was tough. I like what Washington's doing, and I'd be great with them winning their division. But I've kind of picked Pittsburgh a lot this year, and they haven't disappointed yet. So I'm going to have to pick the Steelers. Even though it's at Washington, I just think they're a little more solid in a lot of ways. And again, they're in a good shape in their division, could be here, but they're going to have to keep winning. So I'm going to pick the Steelers.
Yeah, I think the Steelers. I'll go Steelers, but I don't know, Dad. It's this is a close one for sure. A close one for sure. It might be one of the better games of the weekend, honestly. And I would not know that I would have said that at the beginning of the year for sure. Minnesota traveling to Jacksonville. I mean, my goodness, Jacksonville, so much talent, yet so horrible. Vikings, Sam Darnold's making it work there in Minnesota. He's got a 4-point favorite in this game at Jacksonville. Which way do you go, Vikings or Jaguars?
Yeah, I'm going to pick Vikings in this one. I think that makes sense. I would love for the Jaguars to win. That would help us a lot. But there's just not enough there to convince me to pick this. So we'll take the Vikings.
I'm going to go Jacksonville, Dad. It's probably more out of hope. But they got to win some games. They're just too good. They got too much talent to be losing all these games. So I'm going to go Jacksonville. Maybe they make a run here. They finish the year 9-8, or maybe 8-9, something like that. They're going to make a big run here, I think, in the second half. Chicago and New England, a game I could care less about. I just don't care. But I know there are people out there who do care. So Patriots, Chicago 6.5-point favorites. Which way you go with this one?
Yeah, like you said, you talk about a game in some ways you don't care. Of course, the Packers are on bye, and we play the Bears next. Yep. If New England wins this game, we'll be facing an interim coach in another week. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I'm going to pick the Bears. I mean, I'm not sure that's very smart, but they've got a defense, and New England, has trouble scoring, and and they're at home, so we'll pick Chicago. But I heard some people on the radio say this week that Chicago looks like a team that's given up. They've given up on their coach, and that may be the case. So I'll pick the Bears. Why I would ever do that, I don't know, but we'll do it this time.
Well, I don't know who you were listening to, but that's what I think too. I think Chicago, I think there are issues. I think it's deeper than just they've given up on the coach. I think there's some locker room issues. I think there's some guys who are frustrated and kind of being divas. I don't like what I've seen of Chicago. I don't like the body language that I'm seeing. Can they still beat New England? Sure, they can, but I'm going to pick New England in this game. I think they're better coached. I think Drake May is starting to figure some things out as well. And I mean, the Bears have more talent for sure, and they are at home. But I'm going to go ahead and go Patriots in this one, Dad. I think the Bears are in a bad place right now, in my opinion, as well. Okay, then let's see. Your last game we haven't covered yet is the Jets, and the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona's at home. Dad, I told you, if the Jets win last week, then you're going to start hearing some optimism out there. We don't give up on the Jets. Well, that's pretty much what it's been this week. Cardinals have looked good, Dad. They're currently sitting atop the West. The Jets, can they figure it out? Sure, they can. Will they figure it out? Well, that's a whole nother question. How do you feel about the Jets and Cardinals?
I'm going to continue to think the Jets are not going to turn it around. And being this one is that Arizona has played better, no doubt about it. And I think they can win this one, being at home. So we'll see. I don't think the Jets are going to go on a run here. They might can beat Arizona. We will see. But, I don't think the Jets have turned it around, and I think Arizona is playing better. I don't think they're going to be a championship team, but they are giving people trouble in that division and have played better. So I'm going to pick the Cardinals.
Well, yeah, I'm going to pick the Cardinals too, and it's because of the Cardinals, not because of the Jets. Like, I'm starting to believe in this Cardinals team. Kyler Murray's playing better football. They've found out how to use Marvin Harrison. Connor's been playing good football as well. The defense has been decent. Not great, for sure. Not great, but decent. And I kind of like what Arizona's doing. I was a little bit more optimistic about the Jets than you were last week, but I don't know, Dad. I really like what I'm seeing at Arizona. So I'm going to go Arizona as well this week. If you look at the division races, you look at the AFC, Buffalo's the only team in the East with a winning record. The Jets are second at 3-6, so that's not good. The Bills are 7-2. The North, on the other hand, has Pittsburgh and Baltimore both with 6 wins. The Bengals are a game below 500. In the South, you got Houston, that's at 6-3. Indy's at 4-5. I don't trust Indianapolis, Dad, and I hate it because I love Jonathan Taylor, but yeah, it's not looking good there. We're looking like a one team out of the AFC South. The Chiefs are winning the West 8-0. The Chargers 5-3. Broncos 5-4. I'm just trying to figure out where the playoff teams are coming from. You've got Buffalo, you've got Houston, you've got Kansas City, and then you've got at least 2 teams from the North, Steelers and Ravens, and you probably got the Chargers in there as well. So I mean, it's an interesting look right now in the AFC because it's just not pretty what's going on out there.
Yeah, that's very true. You may have some definitely a seventh, number 7 team with not a very good record. That's entirely possible. And again, the thing about the North is I think they've still got to play each other quite a bit. So that may knock people's records down. They should have 2 or 3 teams out of the North in this, but I don't know that that's going to happen, partially just because of playing each other. And maybe, again, you got Denver and the Chargers, that are a little bit of a surprise. So, maybe they'll be able to sneak in there. But like I said, the South's not going to give us a lot, and the East probably just one team. So.
In the NFC, Washington and Philadelphia right up there neck and neck in the NFC East. Detroit 7-1, Minnesota 6-2, Green Bay 6-3, Atlanta 6-3. Tampa's behind them at 4-5. Arizona, Rams, 49ers, and Seattle are all neck and neck out there in the West as well. So right now you're looking at 3 teams from the North, 2 teams from the East, and then a South and West winner is how it's currently lining up. That can obviously change still, but it just seems like the NFC is so much stronger than the AFC right now.
Yes, it does look that way because it's been the opposite here for a couple of years. So, but yeah, it looks like the NFC is in good shape, and it's going to come down, I think, to the end for sure on some of these playoff spots in the NFC.
There are currently a load of teams with 2 wins: Titans, Dolphins, Browns, Panthers, Jaguars, Raiders, Saints, Patriots, Giants, all fighting for pick number 1 in the NFL draft in 2025. Who gets the number 1 draft pick? It looked like the Panthers there for a while, but Dad, there's some other teams that just do not look good right now.
Yeah, like I said, it's going to be a few weeks before that one shakes out and see who gets the first pick. They're in Green Bay. Green Bay is hosting the draft this year, and we'll see where that goes. But yeah, a lot of teams down there at the bottom, and it'd be interesting when we get to looking at the draft and see what kind of talent is there from that standpoint. But it looks like you're going to have maybe a good number of teams bunched up there, 6, 7, 8 teams, in the lower echelon in the picks there. And if a lot of them tie, then that really affects things in the second round, third round, because they all rotate around. So,
yeah, for sure. Are we going to the draft this year?
I don't think so. That'll be quite the crowd up there. There'll be no doubt about that. They'll make room. They'll make it work. But there's a huge crowd of people anyhow. And Green Bay, it's going to be very interesting up there. It'll be great for anybody that goes because there's so much history and so many things up there. I think it's going to be good for the state, for the city. They've been working on this for a while. There's a lot of logistics they have to work out, but I think they're going to be able to do that. I've kept up with it a little bit. They've bought a lot of parcels of land this year, and that's going to help with parking and with things like that in different areas. So, we will see. It'd be fun to go to the draft sometime. This one, I think, could be very, very interesting for sure.
Yeah, I think Carolina's probably still your front runner for number 1 pick, which I think would be great for them because especially if Young starts playing better and looks a little better, then they might not have to go quarterback first, and they get a solid player up there, maybe trade out and get some more draft capital as well. I think Tennessee is probably a team, and Las Vegas. I think those are your 3 teams right now that you're looking at probably for your top 3 picks, needless to say. And we'll talk about next week. My plan is to bring back the quarterback big board, talk a little bit more about that. I've got Shedeur Sanders now up to number 1, Cam Ward down to number 2. I'll hopefully doing some posts on that this weekend as well. But we'll talk about that as we get closer to the draft, of course, as well. All right, Dad, any other NFL news that we haven't covered yet that you want to talk about?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, the Packers are on bye this week, and so that makes it a little bit different week. Be fun to watch some of these games. And, of course, we're thick into fantasy football, and so there's a lot going on there. And then we have these picks. And I think the college weekend is going to be very interesting. So it'll be a good weekend, I think, watching football.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm excited. We've made this transition. I was planning on this. I originally was going to wait till after the NASCAR season. I chose to go ahead and do it a week early. Of course, NASCAR had lots of stuff going on this week. So check out bellyupsports.com. I'm sure Caleb McChesney and Chris Prince are writing some stuff about that as well. Actually, I've got an article I'm working on about it as well. So keep an eye out for some NASCAR coverage on bellyupsports.com. Tomorrow night, the Sports Stove Local Hour will be live at 8 o'clock. Jonathan Duff joins me to co-host that show. We're going to be joined by Gabe Fletcher, defensive lineman. He had 2 sacks this weekend, big sacks as well, so we'll be talking to him. And, Dad, we got a former MTSU guy on the show this week. Jalen Montgomery is the kick returner for EKU, a running back transfer from Middle Tennessee State. He's going to join the show. And then we're also bringing on a third guest this week. Liz Freihofer from the EKU women's basketball team is joining us. She had her college debut, scored 9 points at LSU this week. So excited to have her on the show as well. And recapping the big win over Tarleton State and previewing the game against Central Arkansas this week as well for EKU football. And then, Dad, the Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball Show is going to come back in the new year. We'll be back in January. We'll obviously promote that as we get closer to it as well. So a little bit of just branding change going on in the Sports Stove right now, but you can still find us in all the same places. YouTube, the Sports Stove Media channel, and then you can also look us up on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Just search the Sports Stove. You should be able to find us there. Righteous Felon Jerky is our sponsor of this program. That is phenomenal stuff. I'm telling you, great stuff. You will not regret it. Thanksgiving is coming up. You're going to need some snacks while you're watching football. Christmas is coming up. You need some stocking stuffers. Go ahead and get yourself some. Try it out. Find out which flavors you think your family members will like, and then buy some for them. Put it in their stocking. Dad, you used Righteous Felon as a Christmas gift last year, and it sounds like that went over pretty well.
I did, yeah. People enjoyed it. It makes great gifts for that, so no doubt about it.
Yeah, super affordable, amazing taste, amazing texture. RighteousFelon.com. Use that promo code STOVE15. You're going to get 15% off your purchase, and it lets them know that you heard about them here on the Sports Stove Football Show. Follow us on social media at Sports Stove on Twitter and Instagram. And we're trying to do a little bit more content, especially in regards to draft prep and things like that as well. And we've got plans ahead for the Fantasy Baseball Show. We've got a lot happening in the new year. Of course, with my transition, I'm moving up to Wisconsin. And then along with that, just everything going on. So we're working on it and continue trying to make it better as well. We appreciate you watching, tuning in. Throw us a like, subscribe, a share. All that stuff is really, really helpful for us. A comment in the section. The comment section helps as well with the algorithms, whatever that means. So that would be awesome as well. He's Dale Stover. He's the one that kind of got this started. Well, not the podcast, but talking sports. And then I'm Vince Stover. I came along and happy to be here with you every week as well. Thanks for tuning in to tonight's edition of the Sports Stove Football Show. Until next time, we'll see you around the Sports Stove.